The grind never stops.
Just can't wait for the games to start. Let me start with this, because I know you just got done with the press conference. You've got a lot of stuff thrown at you, but I'm curious. Why do you think LeBron signed here more than anything else? Was it the roster? Was it Magic? Was it Los Angeles? What do you think in the end got us LeBron?
Rob Pelinka.
I think LeBron is an ultimate student of the game. He studies the game and he studies business, and he made it. He understands player rosters on every team. Like Magic said the other night, he went down our entire player roster and broke down every player. He understands the salary cap. He looks and analyzes at trades. He's just a basketball savant, and I think. It's one of those things. He's sat back and he's looked at what this franchise, I think, has stood for over the years. But more importantly, in the last 14 months, I think, since Jeannie Buss decided to, bring Magic and I on board, I'm sure he's analyzed sort of what we've done, the trades we've made, the players we've drafted, the style of basketball and toughness that Luke Walton coaches with. So, I think he looked at a number of things, but I'm sure he put a lot into the actions we've taken and what we stand for as an organization.
Ingram, Kuzma, Hart, Lonzo. How important was the quality of the young core when it came to LeBron making this decision?
Youth is energizing, and I think youth also succeeded in the playoffs last year. I think if you look at Utah and you look at Boston and some of the teams that won with youth, we felt Magic and I wanted to build this roster to be a perfect harmony and balance between vets that have championship and playoff experience with that young core. We think blending those two things together, I think, playing with speed and guys like Kuz and Zoe and B.I. think is going to put kind of rocket packs on LeBron's game. And
D-Lo.
with the players we signed, the kind of the toughness of Lance Stevenson and the length and versatility of JaVale McGee and, Rondo's leadership and, championship abilities, we're incredibly excited about this roster.
Rob Pelinka, the Laker general manager, joining us. Rob, as you've probably gathered by being out in public, when you see people, and you live in Southern California, so people are jumping out of their shoes over this. The one thing people come at us with is they're worried that you don't have enough shooting on the roster, that this has become a three-point league. The Lakers were ranked 29th in three-point shooting last year, and the signings that you guys have made, whether it be Rondo or Stevenson or JaVale McGee, don't really address shooting. Just answer that any way you want. What do you think about the shooting on the roster as it's currently constituted?
So a couple things, when Magic and I had met the last several months, and we've talked about, what our presentation would be to a player like LeBron James. We wanted to bring a presentation of having a roster that had high IQ basketball players, that had versatility, depth, speed, and toughness. And we didn't want to create a team that reflected the team he just got done playing with, that had specialists. We wanted to have a team built around those core components. In terms of the shooting, just because we didn't go out and sign the one-dimensional shooter, we feel like we studied the great shooters that were available in free agency, had percentages in the 38 to 42% effective rate. And when we looked at what our roster has now, you look at Josh Hart, he shot 40% last year. He lightened up the summer league from the three-point range. KCP had one of the best three-point shooting years, close to 39%. Brandon Ingram, 39%. Kyle Kuzma, 37%. LeBron James, 37%. These guys are all good shooters. They're just not your prototypical do one thing, stand in the corner and shoot. We wanted two-way shooters that could defend and bring a toughness, because the road of a championship has to go through Golden State, and one of the things you have to be in a game with them is you got to have toughness.
One of the things we learned from watching Houston take Golden State to the limit is really that they had a toughness to them with Mute, with Clint Capella, with Trevor Ariza. How important was that in terms of the way this roster was put together?
Magic and I studied the playoffs so hard, and clearly that was one sample size to look at. But if you look at great teams in the playoffs, Michael Jordan had a Dennis Rodman. Kobe had a Metta World Peace. We one of the ingredients we wanted to add was a guy that had sort of that, sort of that confident toughness that could be disruptive, and that's why a player like Lance Stevenson, I think, is really a great addition to our roster. Rim protection, the length, the geometry of the game just changes with JaVale McGee. He's as long and fast as any player in the NBA, and just creates so many angles offensively and defensively. Rondo has historically been a guy that has been a great at getting steals late in games and making big, tough defensive plays. So when you look at a roster, you can't say, okay, why did they sign this one particular player? You have to look at the 14 guys as a mosaic, as a whole, and say, okay, now I see all the ingredients to this recipe and how they fit together. And we feel really confident in our group.
Rob Pelinka, the Laker general manager, joining us. Rob, was letting Julius Randle go financial more than anything else?
We have, Jeannie Buss has instituted something here that Magic and I live by. Any guy that has played on the Lakers team and on our platform, we always want, whether it's a player we trade or a player that chooses someone else in free agency, we always want the best for him. And Julius was fantastic for us. But, one of the things that became clear to us as free agency started to unfold was that protecting our flexibility in July of 2019 was an important thing. So as you can see, apart from LeBron's 4-year contract, the deals we did were 1-year deals. And we want to preserve that space. We feel like this roster is on the road towards having a championship roster, but the ability to add potentially another key piece next July is something that was really, really prioritized and important. And, Julius and his representatives made it clear that they, weren't interested in a 1-year deal.
Makes sense.
How do you envision the interplay between Lonzo and Rondo in terms of both playing style, and they're similar in a way, and in terms of playing time?
It's interesting. One of the things we lacked last year was continuity at the point guard. When Zoe was hurt, it just changed how our team played. But now we have multiple point guards, to your point, that both play like a Ferrari. Guys that are unbelievable passers, that have a vision that's at the top of the league. And we want to be positionless. Luke and Magic and I met, and we talked about how our training camp next year is going to be an open competition. I think every player, obviously we have one starter penciled in for sure, and LeBron James.
Yeah.
No surprise there. But the other 4 positions are going to be given to the guys that fight and work the hardest and help us to win. And we think that is really fueling the guys to work hard this offseason. We can't wait to get them all in the building, and just having these competitive, high energy practices is going to be amazing. Obviously, LeBron's leadership. He's already posting on Instagram the day after his vacation, 6 a.m. in the weight room. Just what that's going to do to our young core and our roster, knowing that there's open spots. I mean, it's so exciting around here. I can't even tell you.
Rob Pelinka, the Laker GM, is joining us. And for people who don't know, Rob was a player agent for a long time, and his most successful client was Kobe Bryant. And, Rob, I always tell the story that I never understood, because I've had this radio show for 20 years. I would go to
have we been doing that this long?
I would go to the arena really early, and Kobe would always be the first one there. and I could never understand why more players didn't follow with him, didn't shadow him and go with him. Is LeBron one of those guys? Is he one of these? Does he have that Kobe thing where he's the first one there and the last one to go home? Can you tell yet?
It's interesting that you asked that because obviously I met with him the other day to sign his contract. I met with him and his agent, Rich Paul, and it was an incredible meeting, just really breaking down the roster, coming up with some of the core pillars of how we see our team DNA being with his leadership next year. And his first line is, I'm about one thing, I'm about hard work. He said, I'm going to every day be the first guy in and the last guy out. That's what I stand for. That's how I lead. No one outworks me.
Huh.
And then to follow that up with, his first day as a Laker, he's, in the weight room at 6 a.m. working on his body. That's when the actions that, they speak louder than the words, they kick in. But he absolutely, I think, is going to show a Josh Hart, is going to show a Brandon Ingram, a Kyle Kuzma, a Zoe, even a Zubac. He's going to show all these young guys what it takes to be a champion and an MVP and an all-star. And there's no better way to learn than by seeing it with your own eyes. And now we have that ingredient on our team, which is so invaluable.
I watched the Summer League game last night. It looks like Josh Hart has been working on his body. And you mentioned LeBron and how important. I mean, I've seen his pregame workout is absolutely ridiculous in order to get ready for a game. Have the other players, have the other young guys that you talked about, have they also been working on their bodies? How has that gone?
I think I told you guys when we had the exit meetings, we met with each of the young players and we showed them pictures of guys that are all-pro players in the NBA. We showed pictures of that player when they're a rookie and then when they're 3 years into their career. And the body transformation for the all-pro players is staggering. You go from these skinny, undeveloped kids to these, beasts just with veins popping out and muscles everywhere. And we said to our guys, if you really want to be in the conversation with these elite players, this is what you have to do. And it's 2-3 hours of work every day. It's watching your nutrition. And you guys have seen the IG, pictures of Zoe and of Kuz and the guys, how they're transforming their body. Josh Hart, right after the season, he flew back to Villanova and he worked out every day for a month with his college weight coach. And then he came here and for a month straight was with our strength and conditioning department working every single day. And last night, he drives left down the paint and takes off and dunks over the other team with his left hand. And I texted him after the game and said, hey, the work you're putting in with your legs in the weight room, look what it's doing. Your hops are crazy. That's a play you didn't make last year.
100%. 100% didn't have that last year, Rob. I was just thinking the same thing. So I interrupted you. Go ahead.
You dumbass.
No, so it's, the work is paying off, and LeBron will be the ultimate example of that. But don't put aside leadership of guys like Rajon Rondo too. He came in to sign his contract, and he said, Rob, and he asked me and Luke. He said, "Where's your film guy? I want clips of every player on the roster. I got to start studying their tendencies." And that type of leadership is going to be infectious with Zoe, too, and just how to think like a point guard. I mean, the great quarterbacks, Tom Brady and these guys, they study the game so in-depth. I think Zoe's understanding, he's done some film sessions with Magic this summer to just break down film, and being around a guy like Rajon, who's a championship point guard, it's the leadership we have now is really incredible.
Rob Pelinka is our guest. Rob, last thing. Are you done, or is a guy in your job really never done? Do you have to remain open to the possibility that the roster now could change before the season starts?
We have 14 guys signed, and we love the balance of the roster. It's we have versatility, we have depth, we have speed. I mean, we love the makeup of the roster. But the NBA never sleeps. You never know. Someone can fall into your lap. A trade could present itself. We're going to keep working tirelessly, until we get a 17th banner for our Lakers nation. And so it's hard to ever use the word done until there's that moment of a championship banner going up.
Well, listen, Rob, congratulations. You described KCP as manna from heaven when he was introduced last year. How does LeBron figure in terms of an analogy?
It's a good question. He's the ultimate validation for sort of what we've been building. And when Irvin and I got onboarded by Jeannie, it was about 14 months ago. We were looking at a salary cap that had no flexibility. We were looking at a draft war chest that had picks that were traded away. And we were like, we got to start playing chess. We got to start making moves. But for all we've done, all the hard work, Jeannie, Luke, Magic, myself, our whole staff, when the best player in the world picks up the phone and says, I'm coming to the Lakers, it's the ultimate validation in the work we've done and the road we're on, and the mission will stay on until we complete the task.
Well, congrats again,
Yeah,
Rob. And
congratulations,
thank you for doing this. We can't wait to see these guys play. Thank you for doing this and coming on.
Thanks, guys. We're excited.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
There's Rob Pelinka, and yeah, there's a lot to go over there. Sounds like they're still open to possibilities here. Also sounds like LeBron is showing up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Crazy.
And it's the last guy to leave.
Have you seen him do that, by the way, where he puts his knees on the balance ball and he lifts while he's on the balance ball, and he does it before games?
All right, so think about this. Supposedly he spends $1 million a year on body maintenance. Trainers, cryotherapy, massage guys, he's not messing around.
It explains the ability to be at the peak of his game for as long as he has been.
All right.